Hello, everyone, and welcome to this version. I see people need to put on their headsets first. Good. Welcome, everyone, to this version of Applied AI Launch Talks. For this occasion, we've brought it to the Digital Tech Summit. Usually, for some of you who've joined before, you'll know that we hosted at the DTU Skylab normally. We also are streaming out via AI Denmark's website, so there'll be an option to rewatch this afterwards. I'm very happy to be able to announce today's speakers. First, we have Charlene Putney and Martin Pickelmeier joining us. They are part of Write with Leica and are going to tell us about their startup. And afterwards, we have Isabella Merrill Atkinstein, and she's going to talk about Focal X, which is a vision-based AI startup. I don't want to spend too much time on introductions. They're going to do a beautiful job of that themselves. We're going to do 20-minute talks, and then you'll have the opportunity to ask questions for 10 minutes after each talk. So please remember your questions and let us hear from the first set of speakers. Give them a big round of applause.
Okay, we first gotta change the computer, so that takes a second. Thank you.
Oh, I don't think that will that work?
Well, it will work,
Yeah.
yeah. No, it will not. Oh, it will actually. There's a USB here. Give it a try.
No.
Yeah, but it should still work.
Does it work?
Usually they work. See? Yeah.
Okay,
Nice.
great.
Okay, that seems to work flawlessly so far. We also have a live demo later, so let's see if our luck holds through the whole talk. Hi, I'm Martin. Martin Pichelmeier. It's very hard to pronounce, I know. I'm from Austria. And I'm one of the co-founders of Write with Leica. And my background is a little bit like I'm an academic who worked at the university in Vienna at the Technical University for a while. And then I started a games company. Then I started another games company. Then I joined IT University here in Copenhagen because, I don't know, because I wanted to live in Scandinavia and it's a good place. Like IT University and Scandinavia. But then I thought, okay, but a company would be nice again. So Write with Leica, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm Shar. I used to work at Google and Facebook as a product and project manager, but for the last 10 years I've been a video game writer, working on titles like Divinity Original Sin 2 and Baldur's Gate 3. And over the pandemic, Martin and I had a lot of time to sit together and think about things we could do with writing, playfulness, tech, and ourselves.
Exactly, and that's how Write with Leica came to be. But of course, that was like, we started with this whole journey long before ChatGPT was launched. Generative AI as a concept, as a term, didn't exist yet. Some of the base technologies, actually all of them, were already there. So GPT-2 was like the hot new model by OpenAI, where OpenAI had like this tiered launch process that took months because they didn't dare to unleash something as wild as GPT-2 into the world. Well, times have changed since then, and nowadays generative AI is everywhere. It's becoming included in all of our, especially creative practices, but also business processes and so on, as we speak. And of course, as a young startup, we were one of like 3 writing tools out there 2 years ago. Well, nowadays there are 3,000 coming out every week, it feels. And that's fine. But it also means that we have to be a little bit ahead of the game. And what we tried to focus on from the beginning is just being really very strong in our voice, because most of the things you see out there, especially ChatGPT, is very bland. I wouldn't say it's bad. It is very good at expressing itself. It is sometimes a little bit verbose, a little bit long, but it's very, like Marcus Aurelius, for example, was a Roman emperor in around the year 200. The Philosopher's Stone wasn't mentioned back then. So this whole talking about the Philosopher's Stone, Marcus Aurelius didn't know that concept. But ChatGPT is just like, I'm going to throw everything at this. This doesn't sound like Marcus Aurelius at all. So we wanted to make products that are actually more authentic in the beginning. But nowadays, the authenticity, yeah, that is right. It's Leica. It's out there. We launched it. We have customers. We have a few thousand users. It's all, it's free, so you can all try it. It's great. But what is the next phase? And what we see, especially also since the keynote by OpenAI on Monday, is personalization seems to be the next big thing coming along. And I think that is like, on one hand, you have this, okay, AI agents you talk to, nice, personal, but I think we will have it even more with our devices that we have in our pockets that will be full of small models that run on them that help you with your photo, making every photo your photo, even if it's like syntheticized to a certain degree. And we thought, why not have a look at that? So it's very early. The whole personalization game is only starting now. But maybe we can just come here and not only talk about how awesome we are, but also give you actually something that makes you, that changes maybe a little bit your perspective on where generative AI could be headed. I could be wrong in all of that, of course.
Yeah, so we wanted to offer you 3 different ideas that you can use from today to take personalization into your work with AI. And the first one we have to say is fine-tuning of smaller models. So like Martin was saying, ChatGPT is out there, there's a lot of other big models out there, big generic monoliths. But when you actually fine-tune much smaller models, and we're talking really small, like GPT-2 level small, it's like you put a perfect mask over the face of the model so that it will speak in the voice that you want. So to give you a little bit of background about how we came to this space, our journey into the land of the machines began a long time ago with procedural generation. We started out with our playful experiments making Twitter bots before Elon took all that fun away from us. Thanks, Elon. And we would make these Twitter bots using a lot of different procedural generation techniques. And then we got a taste of AI. So way back in the days when the AI that was out there was the InferKit demo, we would type in little random phrases like this in and get all this stuff back. And it got us really excited because like I'm a video game writer, so when I see all of these things here, I'm thinking, wow, okay, teeth upon the face of the deep, that's an entire game right there. And if it's not a whole game, it's at least a scenario, a dialogue, a poem, a story. It's something, right? There's something there. Sorry. So we got to thinking about what we could do with this more, and we started thinking about fine-tuning. And one of our projects, our early projects, was basically fine-tuning GPT-2 with the Book of Thoth, which is a tarot card book written by Aleister Crowley, an English magician from the early 1900s, and then making brand new tarot cards using his voice. And we made all of these cards, and it just made us so excited because they all seem like they're completely written by him in his voice. And you can see here the first card. This is the death card. And at the very end, at the bottom that you can see, I am the only character in the book that appears in the final chapter. And we were like, wow, what a line. I want to read a book that starts with that line. Who wrote that line? Was it me? Was it Aleister Crowley? Is it the universe? Does it matter? The exciting thing is that we have now brought into this place this situation where we can pull these lines out of the collective unconscious and make them into something new. So we started doing workshops to show other writers how to do this, and then we made our own tool, and that's Leica. And you can try it out at writewithleica.com. And what it does is it'll take your writing. So if you have 10,000 words of content at least, and in 4 minutes, we will train a brain that will write like you, with your characters, your concepts, your voice. And as an example, you can see here, the black text is me writing. So I wrote, deep down, I always knew. And you can see the Dracula version is extremely Dracula, menacing, contains characters from the book, has this sort of undercurrent of dread. The Dostoevsky version sounds exactly like something Raskolnikov would say as he's skulking around in the streets of Moscow. And the Marcus Aurelius one, well, Marcus Aurelius is a special case because, as Martin was telling you about him earlier, he's our most favorite brain, our most popular brain by far. All of our users love him because he's basically like a non-stop self-help therapist. No matter what you say, Marcus is going to give you something jazzy to return with. So yeah, the personal is personality. And if you want to try it out, you can make your own brain with Leica, but I'm just showing you this because this is our tool, this is how we work, but you can do this yourselves. You can make notebooks yourselves, just like we used to do, just like we did with workshops with people. You can take any content you want and you can make that into something, into a personal brain. So, let's do a tiny live demo, fingers crossed. Okay. So far, the internet is holding. This is great. So this is us inside of Leica at the moment. We can look here and we can browse and see all the different brains that we have. The brains are the fine-tuned language models that we work with. So for example, the Manifestos brain is all the art manifestos of the 20th century that I made a brain with. So the futurists, the symbolists, the cubists, the dadaists. We have our most popular brains. You'll see horror and fantasy and science fiction tend to dominate a lot because those are the ones that work well with the hallucination feeling of large language models. And yeah, the featured brains. Tons of brains. We have thousands of brains. But we're just going to try it out right now and do a small test. So I thought we could write a prediction for the future of personalized AI. And we could try using one of our brains. So I was going to use meditations because we've used that one already, talked about that one today.
That's the Marcus
We'll give it a
Aurelius
try.
book.
So when it generates, it's going to generate 3 versions. And I'm going to ask you to put your hands up to tell me which one you like the most. So, let's hope the internet holds. Okay, so number 1. Personalized AI will become more intelligent than the person who created it. The intelligence of a being created by nature will be the same whether it is worshipped or not. The worship of the individual is meaningless. So that's number 1. Number 2 is will be employed in the production of things. People with this kind of intelligence, with the will use it for good. Or number 3, will be able to anticipate your every move, your desires, what your different needs have in common, what your soul is like. So, hands up please. Who likes number 1, become more intelligent than the person who created it? Okay. Number 2, the production of things.
Fewer.
A little bit fewer. And number 3, anticipate your every move.
I think
that's the
number 3.
winner.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we'll just make it a little bit tidier.
Just remove
Anticipate your
the
needs
desires.
and
The
your
second
desires.
desires. Yeah.
Yeah. Your needs and your desires. And maybe we'll just take this one out here. And then I think we have a beautiful prediction that we can share on the public feed. Fantastic. You can also illustrate the things that you make whenever you want. Okay, back to the slides. Back to you, Mar.
Okay. So that was live demo number 1, and it worked. Amazing, right?
Maybe live demo number 2 will also work.
Yeah. Gladly, Shai is doing all the live demos, so she has all the stress with that. I'm just going to tell you a little story. So I'm teaching in the games program at the IT University. I've been running the games program for many years, so my background is also in games. And I one year figured out a use of, like 2 years ago or so, of Midjourney at that point, that I did not anticipate, and that was checking the messaging that you do for a product using an image generator. And that is also something how you can use a tool like that for something that is very, maybe not personal, but very specific. And it's not about the product, it's about changing your process. So what I did was just, I copied the shortest description that I found of the games that students made into the image generator and had it visualize that. And for 9 out of 10 games, it worked perfectly. And in one game, the setting was completely wrong. And then we realized the description didn't mention the setting. It was actually just a bad description. And I did the same for the games that my games company Broken Rules did, which was 4 games, like the 4 games that are on Steam. We have a lot of console games and iOS games. And actually, it is crazy how good the top right is. That's a game called Old Man's Journey. And it was the most successful one. And it's the only one where the AI actually just replicated the style of the game because there are enough images out there to have that information, I think. But all the others, it just tried to describe them as good as possible. And the older the games, the harder it is to grasp what the game is about because we weren't good at writing those descriptions. So what I did was really just take this on Steam. Well, I guess, who of you knows Steam? Yeah, okay. If you don't know, it's a big store for video games. I just took this small description that is like the most important, the key part for customers, players to make a decision if they buy or not. Copied it into, in this case, Stable Diffusion, and then just picked the one image that I liked most. But in general, just looked at this spread and saw, okay, yeah, it understands what Old Man's Journey is. This is totally the vibe of the game. So it was really a good reality check. And for other games, it actually didn't work. And then I looked at the description and was like, I would write that completely differently nowadays. This one is good. So quality assurance, basically. It's great. Do it. And of course, you could do the same with descriptions of people, with personas, for example. Run them through an image generator and see if your persona in this kind of global unconscious of the model is who you think they are, if they have the face that you would expect. Bringing us to Ichi.
This is still you.
This is still me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Until the live demo.
Oh, until the live demo. This is still me until the live demo. So bring us to Ichi. Who is Ichi? Ichi is an editor who has a very sober way of going about editing. And Ichi came up because in this summer Shara and I had this complete epiphany at some point that what we have been trying so far with Leica is like not really solving the problem we set out to solve, which is like banish the empty page, help you in every situation, because Leica needs a lot of commitment. It's a great tool for actual writers that work with text very intensely anyway, and that acknowledge that making a good text is a lot of work. But it's a very bad tool if you want to get started. It's just not really helping you enough. And that's why we pivoted. And we thought our original vision was actually that Shar used to work in a writer's room with a lot of other writers, and suddenly she found herself working alone and was missing other people. So why not make other people? We can do that, and Ichi is one of those people. But in order to work with those people, they cannot be these obedient little servants like ChatGPT who are always like sucking up to you, basically. They have to be like real peers, people that hold you to higher standards, that you can spar with. And that brought us to the invention of our writing team, a team of peers that works with you. And since yesterday, actually can work with you, because now we figured out the technology. And they work with you, not for you. So you can bounce with them and see them a little bit more on eye level. And you do that in a very similar writing environment for now. They can, of course, break out of that later. And they get the whole full power of Leica integrated in the writer's room too. And then we will give them different abilities too, so that they can access different external systems over time, have different ways of working with your text. Some of them work more with you than with the text and so on. And that way they will have they will differentiate. They will be different people that work with you in different ways. Let's see how that goes. In the moment, we have 3 characters that we're working on. Alex is a research assistant, so working a lot with external sources, giving you a little Wikipedia summary and so on. Lotus is our spiritual guide. She works with you instead of the text very much, and is very concerned about your well-being. And Ichi is the editor, who is very dry and very somber and to the point and on the text.
Yes.
And of course, OpenAI launched their little GPTs on Monday. They are making persons too. And that's great because A, we can integrate them in our system. B, we can integrate our people in their system. It's good for us. And I'm happy to see that a huge company is on the same way as us and on the same wavelength.
But part of that is that if you can change the system prompt, you can change the world that you're working with. So at the moment, ChatGPT owns the system prompt for how everything works. If you spend a little bit of time working with the notebooks like we have, you're able to edit. When you download and work with language models purely yourself, you can edit everything that happens with them so that you're not being beholden to anybody else's idea of how things work. So as an example, I just want to show you very quickly. This is our very ugly looking internal systems for showing how this works. But you'll see, for example, I'm working here at the moment with the Mistral 7B Instruct model, and inside of the parameters, I'm able to completely edit the context. I'm able to completely edit the system prompt so that I am perfectly determining exactly what's going to come out, and also making a character prompt as well. So then when we talk to Ichi, my Ichi, you'll see here, you'll recognize him from earlier, I can say, "Hi Ichi, can you give me one sentence summary of the power of personalization?" And maybe Ichi will work if the internet is still good. Yeah. So Ichi will say, "Personalization empowers individuals by allowing them to express themselves in a way that reflects their unique interests and values." And maybe I'll just ask Ichi a little bit like, what are your unique interests? Hopefully. Oh, did I say yes? Yeah. "I am interested in writing and editing fiction, particularly creating characters that resonate with readers." So he's basically going back to his own personality, which is all about writing, editing, and being himself.
Yep.
Yes. So, what I would love to say as part of this is like this whole like, we don't need to work with the tools that we are offered by the big companies like like OpenAI. We can take this stuff and mess with it ourselves. It's not that hard. You can spend time, you can work with this stuff, and you can own everything yourself.
Yes.
That's my main takeaway. So, I think we did actually do it in 20 minutes.
And we even have some extra
Now we
time.
need to
Yes.
put on our
Yes,
headphones so we can hear you.
Thanks, Mark.
you got it. So we even have a little extra time for questions, and Martin up here is going to help us. If somebody in the audience have a question, you're welcome to raise your hand, and let's hear it.
Hi, I have a couple of questions from the online audience.
Perfect.
One of them is about spelling mistakes. If you are a bad speller, if you write spelling mistakes, will the AI somehow adapt to that or mirror it? Or
In Leica, yes, it will actually learn your spelling because it cannot really distinguish between you having a spelling mistake or you writing fantasy, so every name has a Y in it. So it will just pick up on that also because it can be part of the style. But at the same time, Grammarly works excellently in the existing Leica editor, so you can just use Grammarly for that. The writer's room, I actually checked that today, and our system is already able to give you feedback on your grammar and your spelling. It's not as reliable as Grammarly, but it's pretty much getting there. So, so in the future, that will be a solved problem.
so if you're a bad speller, Leica will still be a good speller.
As it can be if you want it to. It can be a bad speller too, if you want that.
So you can simply ask one of the personalities in there to be spelling like an 8-year-old.
Exactly, because you might, like, I'm reading a book in the moment that, for example, has several people sometimes talking a foreign language, and it's written in English, but it mirrors how they are talking. And that is, of course, broken grammar.
Yeah.
And we want a system where you're able to write in a voice that is not speaking correct English, too. The system should just be aware of that and able to also help you if you want to speak correctly. But the flexibility of having a weird style should be there for actual creative writing.
Yeah, thank you. So now that the computer can write, why would I hire a writer?
Yeah, the funny thing is, what we have seen is you need more writers. Like, for example, let's talk about video games, because I know video games very well. If you want to make characters in video games, it's already a lot of writing that goes into making them. If you want to make a character that people can talk to over an LLM, you will most likely need even more writing to make that kind of flexibility. So I don't think there is that the fact that these systems can produce text means we don't need writers. You just spend maybe a little bit more time editing than writing, than you did writing in the past, so it changes a little bit the balance of your process. Maybe you want to add something.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly it. So, I mean, I am a writer and I still actually have work somehow, even though I also have this tool. And it is, for me, the case that anything that is produced with AI, it's more about bouncing with it. So if you think about like writers, I mean, I've kind of noticed now that there's two kinds of writers. There's the writer who thinks that whatever it is that they produce is like coming up pure out of this like fountain that they have inside them, and it comes out onto the page, and then that's exactly it. That's what they wanted to express. But I think a larger amount of writers, at least that I've encountered and the kind of writer that I am, need to bounce against the walls of the world in order to know exactly what it is that they have to say, and in order to like find the limits of what it is they want to express. And so when I'm working with AI, like with Leica, for example, or with any of the AI tools, what I'm trying to do is like bounce off that wall to see what it is that I'm trying to say, and to give you the nudges to get to the next step. So it's never replacing what I'm doing. It's just becoming a tool for me to bounce with, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And generally, in all creative disciplines, 90% of what people produce doesn't make it into the
Yeah.
product anyway. Like in video
99.
games, like 99% gets thrown away. That's just a part of. But you needed to make it in order to get to the good stuff.
Yeah.
And that is the process that we want to support. Throwing away stuff to get to the gold.
Hi, first, thank you so much for your talk. It's very inspiring. I have a question. Is your tool actually being used by writers, and what is their experience of using your tool?
Yeah, so at the moment we have just over 6,900 users. The vast majority of our active users who are like coming in all the time are either professional writers or professional artists in some way, like making video installations, writing books, anything to do with kind of the artistic use of words. From their perspective, like we do these surveys on our users now and then, and they say it's like 73% of them say Leica makes them feel more creative. And 100% of them say Leica is fun. So that's that's kind of what's exciting for us. But yeah, we have it's almost like our Achilles heel as well, is that the vast majority of our users are professional writers, and we need to try also to figure out how we can expand into the general public a bit more, because yeah, professional writers is a.
But maybe you want to tell
smaller.
one or two use cases, like how people are actually using it, because you know some good stories.
Yeah, so we have. Well, I don't know if I actually can tell the stories at the moment. Unfortunately, because they're current users who are doing the stuff for current things. They didn't tell me I could tell the world.
Okay.
Yeah. Come back to me in 3 to 6 months, and I'll have a lovely PDF of uses.
Thank you for the presentation. I were wondering if, can you hear me well enough?
I can hear you, I just can't see where you are.
I'm here.
Okay, hi.
Just because people were turning around, so I got confused. Sorry, I were wondering, these characters that you make, if you wanted to make a fictional character, for example, and you wanted to express the personal development throughout a story, how would that work? Do you then add to this personalization description?
Yeah. So that's a super good question. So we don't just use artificial intelligence for our character arcs and our personalities. We're also using procedural generation and variables to like connect into the space of like how many times you've talked to them now, what was the result of the last time you talked to them, and it's bringing up content that is like also handcrafted by me as a writer, as well as content that is being done by the AI. So we are using a variety of things together to make this work. It isn't just a pure AI persona.
Thank you. Sorry, could you tell what language model are you using, or did you develop your own?
So the old Leica just runs with GPT-2 actually, because for fine-tuning a larger model you would need more text than our users have, because it's meant to be an end-user fine-tuning, and they don't have the billions of books that you need to fine-tune an actual large model. So it's using GPT-2. And in the moment with the new, with the writer's room, we are not 100% settled yet. We are looking at, like we've looked at 30 models so far, I think, and we're down to like 4 or 5 that are interesting. Xwin is very good. Mistral, especially the Sapphire fine-tuning, is very good. There are some Open Assistant ones that also...
OpenOrca.
OpenOrca, sorry.
OpenOrca, OpenChat 3.5.
Yeah.
So you're providing the user interface, basically, right?
We're also hosting it ourselves. So we have made for the GPT-2, we have a setup for the fine-tuning, for scaling it on a GPU farm, and things like that, and we are completely hosting it. And the same with the writer's room, we will also host it ourselves.
We're really keen on always hosting our own models and never relying on, OpenAI being up or OpenAI deciding that our content is safe for work enough or anything like that.
Yeah.
Thank you for answering.
And we have time for one final question.
This is from our online audience as well, asking if it speaks other languages than English, and if it would be able to learn languages if you come up with something.
So if someone would finally give the Danish funding system enough money to make a good, small Danish model, it would be able to speak Danish in a way where I, as a foreigner who speaks a little bit of Danish, can't tell that this is bad Danish. But in the moment we looked at base models for Leica, and it's just really bad. There is no high quality Danish base model to use. the writer's room, we have to check that. It might be that like some of the models actually are multilingual, so it should be possible there because they're large enough. How good small languages like Danish are is then always a question. So even German, which is significantly bigger, it's really bad compared to English.
Yeah.
But
most
it's
of
something we're very aware of.
Yeah, we're very aware of it. But the thing is, as well, is that we are a team of 3 people. So there's 2 of us and 1 more, and so every single decision that we make about what to focus our time on matters a huge amount, and we can't do everything all at once. So our idea is to perfect for English and to perfect for writing, and then expand into other creative industries and into other languages as well. But for now, we just want to make it work with the 3 of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Camilla.
And it's good to hear what it is you need. If there's any investors in the audience, please come to talk to Write with Leica. Let's give them a hand and welcome the next speaker on the stage.
Thank you.
So while Isabella is taking the stage, I just wanted to advertise for the next Applied AI Launch Talks, which is going to take place at Skylab on December 7th. Or on your computer, if you sign up online, you can use the QR code that you see on the screen up here. It's going to be Force Technology that's going to share with us. And then TEF, which is the AI Text and Experimentation Facility in Denmark, a brand new initiative that are going to introduce their initiative to us. So we have Isabella here. I have your slides on this computer, but you can also use your own. We'll transition again. I hope you got the QR code. Otherwise, come see me in the break. I'll do it. And when you're ready.
Okay, great. So, hi everyone. My name is Isabella, and I'm one of the founders and the CEO at FocalX. And what we do is that we help companies in the automotive and logistics industry with their vehicle handovers. And to do that, we use computer vision technology. And that is one of the things that I'm going to talk to you about today. But I'm also going to talk a bit about how we're overcoming the data challenge, because that's been one of the main issues that we've been facing, building computer vision models. But first of all, I'm going to tell you a bit about what we do at FocalX, so you have some idea and some framework to put it all into. You might not know this, but when I am finished with this sentence, at least $10,000 will have been lost because companies are not detecting damages on cars when handing them over. And every year, more than 9.2 billion cars are handed over. Today, it's either manual or the inspections are non-existent. You've probably seen this one over here while renting a car or something like that in south of Europe. It's a pain. But what is a bigger pain is when inspections are not happening. And as a result, companies lose a lot of money because of inefficiencies and non-detected damage on cars. And that's essentially what we're solving. So with FocalX, companies can cut down cost and time on their inspection processes by making them more efficient, but they can also detect more damage on cars. And that's where we're really saving them a lot of money because they're able to report it to the insurance and so on, and they're able to create transparency around the responsibility of the damage. So our product is as simple and sexy as a calculator. Our customers call it the smart camera. So using highly sophisticated computer vision technology, we guide the user around the car to take images, and based on those images, we generate a damage report showcasing all of the flaws on the car, and then we hand it over to the company. Our models are trained with hundreds of millions of data points, and we're continuously keeping up to date by creating even more data using synthetic data methods amongst others, generative AI and other damage transfer techniques. And that is something that I'm going to talk a bit about. But just to give you an idea of how our models are structured and what we do in terms of that. So detecting damage on cars, it sounds like an easy task, but there's actually a lot of things happening here. So we have 3 different layers of models. There's the top level, and these are happening sequentially, or the first things happening. Is there a car in the picture? What position is the car in? What parts do we see on the car? And what minor parts do we see on the car? That's the first things that happen. After that, we run all of our damage models simultaneously. That could be scratches, dents, tears, stone chips, and so on, to figure out what damage is on the car. And then we have another layer on top of that, calculating 1, the severity of that damage, and 2, validating that it is actual damage on the car. Because often a dent could also look like a reflection or the other way around, and dirt could look like a scratch. So to give you a couple of examples of the type of damage that we currently detect on cars, here we see a black car in both of the images. It's a bit difficult to see on the right image. But here, take the first one. You see a black car door where you see a lot of things reflected on it because it's very reflective. And you have a small scratch there pointed out with the yellow arrow. Over here, you also have a black car door. And here it's not that easy to see that it's actually not a white car, but it isn't. That's just reflected. And you can even see like the phone over here taking the image. And these are the kinds of conditions that we often work under while detecting damage on the car. And you can then see we detected the scratch here. Here's another couple of examples, and just to give you some ideas of what these models are able to do currently. So this one here is a good example because what you can see is that we detected a dent, but we didn't detect the line here that could look like a scratch, but it's actually a reflection. Today, we are already being used by companies like Applush and now in Vigo as customers in Denmark, and also across Americas, MENA region, and Baltics. And now we come to what I really want to talk to you about today, which is the major challenge to get there and to actually being deployed and used all of these places around the world, and we are only a 2-year-old company. The biggest challenge to get here has been data, because now you've seen a couple of examples of the things that we need to detect, and it's very, very data. It's different colors of cars, it's different body types, it's a lot of different environments that we work under. So how can we do that? In general, there's a couple of ways of getting the data you need to train models, and models like these need a lot of data to be trained. So there's a couple of ways to do it. One is collecting data in-house. You can do this if you're already a big company and you have some data streams, or you can do it by starting out with a non-AI product to start getting that data that you will need, so you get real-life data. But we actually tried this approach. It wasn't hugely successful because our product without the AI just wasn't as interesting for our customers. Then you can create industry partnerships, and this is a normal way of getting the data as well. But it can be tricky to find the right industry partners that have that type of data. There's also internet databases where you can find data, but if it's very specialized data, it can be difficult. And then there's the fourth, which is scraping the internet, but this is increasingly becoming illegal. MIT made a research paper showing that more than 50% of all AI projects failed because of them not having high-quality training data. But the solution is right here, synthetic data, and Gartner predicts that synthetic data will overtake real-world data in AI models by 2023, which is basically now. And this is their predictions. So it's also by a substantial amount. So we started looking into this. How can we use synthetic data? How can we generate synthetic data to create our models? The way that synthetic data is usually created today is in Omniverse or Unreal Engine, like gamified environments where you can have non-real life looking data, but it is good enough if you want to detect zebras or something like that and just need the basics of a zebra on a field. Then it's not a problem at all. But if you want to detect damages like we need to detect that are very varied in format, you cannot really use any of the tools out there. So we build our own. And the process overall looks like this. So we either identify or 3D generate damage. We take our data set of hundreds of thousands of cars, and we simply place that damage onto the other cars. Obviously, this is not as simple as it sounds. There's a lot of things going into this, because the angle needs to be right. The type of damage that you place at a certain place needs to fit that part. And there's a lot of complexities in doing this. So we started out doing it manually. And I can actually show you guys a brief video of what that looked like. So you can see it here. This is a way of manually moving one damage to another place. And so there's color differences, there are all sorts of challenges while doing this, although just moving a bit forward, it is possible to get it to look like a real damage and then to copy it all over the car. Like this is the very basic, very manual way of doing it, and the very first thing that we started doing. Now, obviously, this isn't as efficient. So we started developing generative AI models for doing it, and I can just show you also what that looked like at a very small scale. Obviously, we are automating this process and working with it continuously. But we are then training generative AI models on the type of damage that we know are important for our customers to see. And this is a very bad version of it, because this is Photoshop's version of it. It doesn't work at all. So that is why we are training our own AI models to do this. So you get an idea. Okay. Let's go back to the presentation. Yeah, here you can see another couple of examples. What is interesting here is that you see the same damage here as here, in different sizes, in different colors of the car. So this is also something that we're training our models to do, because it needs to fit with the color, with the part, with the angle, with the light, with the shadows, with the reflections, and so on and so forth. So it's not a simple process as such. But this is essentially what helps us create the data sets that we need to train our models for our traditional AI models. So here you also see a couple of examples. All of this is synthetic data. I can give you a couple of more. They look like real-life car damage, but they're actually not. The results astonished us. So before we started this process, we were struggling with especially one model that we just couldn't get to work, because reflection has such a large impact on that model. For these types of models, an F-score of 0.6 is amazing. Like, you rarely get that with these types of models, because it's such small objects and so many variations of it in so many environments. But we managed to increase our F-score from 0.3 to 0.7 when we included our synthetic data. And yeah, we also increased the efficiency of our annotation tool a lot. So why does this matter? It matters because we can now automatically and by ourselves create the type of data that customers want and need for their use case to really make sense, to really get an ROI from our tool. Not a lot of companies do this. Not a lot of companies manage to get the data that they actually need, especially not if it's very specific models that they need. But I am strongly convinced that the companies that will manage to do this and work with synthetic data also will be the ones that win. So, thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, I'd love to answer them.
Good. Let's see if we have any questions in the audience. And will you be the runner again?
Yeah.
Excellent. Cool. Or there might be some online. So might we actually have experienced your software already? You said that it's deployed in Danish companies as well.
So we're always starting with the internal processes. So when you see that Chernao is using it, if you ever see Chernao personnel running around taking images of the car, they are using our tool.
Okay.
But it's not implemented in their end user app at this point.
Okay.
The
Got
same goes for Vigo cars and so on.
Yeah, because I thought maybe I tried it when I got a Go More car and I was like out filming.
No, I either, unfortunately.
Not
yet.
Not yet. It's coming.
Yeah.
Excellent. Let's see if we have more questions from the audience. Maybe you covered it all. I'm super curious though, because it seemed difficult, even for a human eye, to distinguish between the reflection and an actual scratch or dent in the car. Like, what types of algorithms and machine learning do you use for that?
So first of all, we created everything from the bottom. You can find open source models out there on the internet that can easily detect a black thing on a white car. But in reality, these models aren't that useful because they don't take into account all of the different characteristics of a dent. So we actually built it all from the ground up, and that goes for all of our tech stack essentially. We built all of our annotation tool, moderation tools, build a lot of tech in-house. An important point here is also that, because you said it can be difficult to distinguish between dirt and damage or reflection and so on. And what we do here to ensure that our models predict accurately is that we run a lot of models. We don't overtrain each single model, and we also customize models for the customers itself, so that we don't try to grab everything in one model, because then we're overtraining and the models are becoming confused, because you see cases like this where you have like a lot of reflections, for example.
Cool. There's some questions online, it seems.
Thank you very much. We have a question here from our online audience. What do you think of using synthetic business data in terms of scenario simulation and in financial applications? Does that make sense? Synthetic data used in financial applications.
That's not really my field. I must admit. I know mostly of using synthetic data with computer vision models. To me, this is a really good application for it, because it's quite narrow, although you're now also seeing that it can be kind of broad. But with financial data, sounds a bit risky.
I think I'll recommend that the person who asked the question track down a guy called Joran, and he's a speaker at Digital Tech Summit, actually. He's from Synthetic AI Data, so maybe talk to that company. They might know.
Yeah, so there's a lot of synthetic data options out there, and I'm just talking about computer vision and image data in particular, because that's what we really tried to figure out how to do and how to find, and we couldn't find anything, so we built it ourselves.
Way to go. Let's see if there's more questions in-house. I see one over here.
Thank you for your presentation. So, when you're using synthetic data to train your models, how much synthetic data are you using compared to real data? And how often do you have to retrain your models if your models kind of, because you're using generative AI to train AI, so there has to be some types of issues when it comes to recognizing, dents, scratches, whatever. But how often do you have to kind of go back to the drawing board and start over with your models?
So first of all, we have a really strict QC process on everything that we do. And because we also started using synthetic data this year, we still go through everything. We have a whole annotation team that is also moderating that data coming from the AI and vetting everything before we send it to the AI. So it's not in any way an automated process at this point. And I think that's where we will really face those issues of retraining. But obviously, because we are a startup and because we're 2 years old, we continuously retrain the models anyways. In terms of the amount of normal real-life data and synthetic data, I would say it's 90-10. So we use it to tune and tweak the model. So we have a base of real-life data that we then work on top of with the synthetic data. So it doesn't stand alone, but it has helped us increase the accuracy immensely and focus towards the things that are more important for our customers, because that's also an important distinguishment. Does it make sense?
And do we have more questions in the audience? We have one over here.
I'm just trying to understand how it will work in practice. So if I'm returning a rental car and then the rental agent, he has to take pictures from every angle and upload it to your software, and then you get immediate feedback, right? Is that how it works?
Yeah, that's pretty much how it works. So we start with the internal processes always. A car rental could be one example. We have a lot of other examples. It could be car logistics as well, when cars are transported from one company to another, and there needs to be transparency around the condition. So with the software, we made it so simple to do that the inspection can be done every time. And the process to take the images, and we have gone for images and not video because people are better at doing pictures than video. But we found out that it's something that anyone can do. And we have really worked on our cloud infrastructure to make sure that the results are immediate. So whenever the inspector is done taking the images, they already start see damages appearing in the report.
All right, thank you.
So you mentioned that you're a 2-year-old startup, and working with startups, I'm always curious about what are your next steps. Are you in need of brain power? Are you recruiting currently? Are you looking for investors? What would be a next step for Focal X? How can we be a resource to you?
So of course we're always looking for great interns. Being a startup, we are not hiring massively right now. Mm-hmm. But we are looking to raise a larger funding round next year. So then there might also be some more opportunities of hiring more. But interns always, and if anyone are business angels and stuff like that, we're always interested to talk, of course. But yeah, right now we're just working on pushing our product out to customers. And that's the main focus of the business right now.
Totally makes sense. Thank you. I think we have room for one more question. Are there any online or any I see one over here.
Hi, thank you so much for the talk. So I'm just curious about the bias in the data when you start to use these synthetic data. So basically, from what I understood from your talk, so you have few, let's say, damages in some of the real cases, and then you try to take those and of course put it with the right. So some sort of bias is already introduced because of those real kind of data. So how do you tackle these kind of problems to avoid bias?
That's where the very close customer dialogues come into play, because that's really a cornerstone of what we do, that we align with the customer on what is important for them to see, because that way it's easier for us to generate that type of data and train the last 10% with that type of data. What we also do is that we only train generative AI models on real-life data that we know is relevant, and we also have this very hefty QC with two layers of that process to make sure that the data is proper and what we need.
Thank you so much.
And let's see, do we have more questions in the audience? At DTS online? No. I think we're complete. Thank you so much for an inspiring talk. I'm gonna switch back to my advertising slide here, because in case somebody has more appetite for applied AI lunch talks, they are completely free to attend. You can attend them online if you sign up using the QR code here, so you can be at work during your lunch break, or you can come to DTU. At DTU Skylab, we have a place called the Auditorium. We only have one, so it's easy. And one Thursday each month during the semesters, we run these applied AI lunch talks. It's a collaboration between DTU Skylab, the Pioneer Center for AI, and AI Denmark. So feel free to join. Hope you got inspired today, and hope to see you later.